welcome again today. Another session. I hope you did bring a notebook that, so you can, learn what I'm talking about. I want to talk to you today about being an empty cup, and then rocking on. Being an empty cup. What happens to a cup that is too full? Overflows. You can't put new stuff in it. You fill the cup up and it just becomes a nightmare because it's so full. Let's say you have what are you drinking?
Coffee.
You're drinking coffee, right? But you want to have let's say a Sprite or something like that. Well, if the cup is full of coffee, getting Sprite in there, it's not going to happen. In fact, if you don't want to mix the two together, and you just want the soda, you're going to have to do what with the coffee? Drink it all, right? You're going to have to drink it all and get rid of that before you can enjoy the next thing, right? Okay, well, the same thing goes with knowledge. The same thing goes with learning. In order to truly get the best experience out of something, you've got to empty your cup and be willing to learn, right? Well, let's take your life in general. Let's say that you have an upset in some way, maybe an area that you're completely stuck on. Well, I got about 9 things that I'm going to show you how to help overcome those things. So, in order to empty the cup, the first thing is you might want to admit that if you had all of the answers with the thing that you want to learn, or maybe overcome a problem in your life, and you already had all the answers in your head, you probably would have already fixed whatever it was, or already have been on your way to succeeding in whatever it is you want to do, right? So let's say that you are having an issue with maybe your anger, but you're not willing to take the opportunity to learn from someone who has already overcome their anger. Your cup is full. You're empty. I mean, you're not empty. You're too full to take it in. So rule number 1. Know this: if you had all of the answers already in your head, you would have already put it into action by now. And in fact, you might say, oh, I've got everything all figured out already. I'm good to go. I don't have to do this, but you keep getting the result of failure. Or you keep getting the same result over and over and over again. To admit that you don't have all the answers. To empty your cup. You guys remember when I took a particular student off to the side, or maybe some of you guys don't, but I took a particular student off to the side, and I filled a cup up full of water, and I just kept filling water in the cup, and it just kept overflowing. He's like, what does that even mean? And I gave this lecture, like he had to visually see that. Your cup is too full. You need to empty your cup. Okay? So be willing to do that. Be willing to admit, step number 2, be willing to admit that you don't have all of the answers. Willing to learn. Be willing to learn. It's kind of like playing an instrument. Let's say you want to learn how to play the guitar, but you're really good at playing, let's say, the drums. So in your mind, you may think, I already naturally can play the guitar, no problem. Not true, right? I mean, it's a totally different instrument. You have to start from scratch. You have to have someone to teach you how to play the guitar. You're not naturally born just knowing how to play the chords and the scales and how to strum and pick and all the different things with the guitar. You're not naturally born knowing how to string it up or tune it, are you? You have to learn how to do these things. You have to learn from somebody how to do these things. So you've got to be willing to admit that you don't always have all the answers. In fact, you might start saying to yourself, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not even sure I've got all of the right questions. But I'm going to do my best to learn. I'm going to do my best to listen. I'm going to do my best to empty my cup Does that make sense? Right? Okay. Rule number 3 is, it's not a man's dreams that fail him. It's the lack of know-how required to bring the dreams into actuality. And sometimes we get in our own way, don't we? There's a nasty little thing that we all have that is equally good and bad. It's called the ego. Now, it's essential that you have an ego because that keeps you driven, it's driving you forward, it keeps you moving. But it's not good to have an overinflated ego. It's not good to believe we know everything. So to be able to admit, going back to rule 2, being able to admit that we don't have all the answers is essential to learning. Would you not agree? It's essential to learning. So it's not a man's dreams. It's not that a man or a woman dreams too big. It's that a man or a woman don't learn how to do the things necessary to achieve what they want to achieve. Because I got news for you, you can do just about everything, especially here in the United States of America. You can do just about anything you want and put your mind to. You can achieve anything anyone else has ever done with the same amount of discipline, the same amount of focus, the same amount of drive, the same amount of hard work, the same amount of dedication, and you can achieve anything that anyone else has. But again, going back to rule 3, this is where people fail. They don't take the opportunity to learn how to do it. They may have an idea. Let's say their idea is to become a race car driver. And then, well, to become a race car driver is going to take what? Lots of little steps in between being a normal driver and being a race car driver. There's going to be some things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to train. You're going to have to learn how to maneuver a high-performance vehicle. You're going to have to learn how to, it drives different, and everything's different about a race car as opposed to like a Ford Fiesta or something, So everything's different about it. The mindset's different. Everything's different. You got a guy in your headset. Admittedly, I'm not a huge race fan, but regardless if it's racing or horse racing or ice skating or basketball playing or football playing or golf or being a martial artist or being a musician, it's going to take those steps in between. In fact, let's use the analogy of a musician. Let's say you're Eddie Van Halen, and you want to play the guitar. What steps do you think anybody knows who Eddie Van Halen is? Or was? You want to be able to play the guitar. What do you think Eddie Van Halen had to do in order to become the Eddie Van Halen that we know of today? What do you think he had to do? Practice. He had to learn and practice. And admittedly, Eddie Van Halen learned a lot by ear. He was gifted in that way, but he had to spend lots and lots of time. In fact, do you know what the 10,000 hour rule is? It takes 10,000 hours doing something consistently in order to be good at it. 10,000 hours. So if you spend 1,000 hours a day, which is impossible, then it takes 10,000 days like that to do it. But we don't have 10,000 hours. Let's say you only practice 4 hours a day. Let's say 4 hours a day. Kevin, are you good with math? Let's say 4 hours a day. It takes 10,000 hours to really master something. How much time does it take?
So what are the numbers to calculate?
So let's say 4 hours a day. And, well, we've got 10,000. So what do we need to do? Divide 4 by 10,000? Is that how you get it? I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. So whatever the numbers are, I guess it doesn't really matter. That's how much practice you've got to put into to be an Eddie Van Halen. Holy smokes, guys. When he came out, he was just a young man when he started coming out and playing in the bands and things like that. How much time in his room do you think he was practicing? Unbelievable, man. He had to learn how to tune. He had to learn where all the notes were. He had to learn the scales. He had to learn the chords. He had to learn how to pick and be in rhythm and be in timing and just, he had to be playing all the time. Well, let's say you want to be the greatest, a basketball player on the planet, or at least as good as, say, I don't know, name somebody, Michael Jordan or whoever. Guess what you got to do? You can't be sitting in your room doing nothing all day. You can't be sitting in your room, watching the TV. You have to be out there practicing, hours after hours. In fact, 10,000 hours. True. It's the truth. It's a known fact. 10,000 hours. And you mastered it. It's years of doing something, right? So you go, I don't know. I'm way too lazy for that, man. I don't want to do that. That takes a lot of time. But, life is about enjoyment and happiness. In fact, if it's not enjoyment and happiness, what's the point of the whole thing? You got to have enjoyment and happiness. So you've got to invest in yourself in what makes you happy. What makes you happy? And you might say, well, it's drugs. Well, no. Actually, drugs is a poison. You're poisoning by numbing yourself to the sensations of the world as an escape. That's an escape. That's not a passion. Escapism and passion is way completely different, opposite realms. Actually, the more drugs you do, the less true sensations you have in your life. And joyous sensation is what makes life worth living. When you have true, authentic sensation, living your passion, living your dream. If your dream is to be a guitar player, then it makes you happy to practice. You want to practice. You want to do it. Let's say your dream is to be a locksmith. Then you love fiddling with locks, and you do it all the time. It's what you enjoy. It's your passion. If your passion is to play golf, then you're thinking about golf. You're reading about golf. You're learning about golf. You're practicing your stroke. You're doing everything you can. You're learning about, wind conditions. I don't know if that's a thing for golf. I don't know. It is, right? You're learning about these things all the time. How much time did you spend on the golf course?
12 hours.
Hours. Your whole family loves it. You were born into it. You were raised into it. So you're doing it over and over and over again. It's what you're passionate about. Repetition. Consistently taking these things. Why would that be any different than, let's say, becoming your optimal self? Learning how to be highly functioning in the world. You go, well, I'll just do whatever I want to, blah, blah, float around like a lost plastic bag in the wind, just floating anywhere and everywhere. We've known people like that, even past students, right? We've known people like that. I'm just going to be like a plastic bag, just flopping in the wind, going wherever it takes me. Wouldn't it be better to be a sail? We can direct our motion in the best way we can. Yeah? Wouldn't it be better to be a sail than a plastic bag just flopping around? No. Taking consistent action on whatever it is, whether it be playing guitar, whether it be being golf, whether it be being a photographer or flying helicopters or whatever it is, practice it. Be consistent with it. If it's graduating a program, if it's graduating high school, if it's graduating college, take that opportunity to focus. Stay consistent. Stay on schedule. Stay disciplined. Stay driven. Be a sail. Not a plastic bag going around just blah, 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 blah. In fact, in order to get to that point, let's go back to musician for a second. In order to take to be able to flow with other musicians, you have already had to have done what? 10,000 hours of practicing just to become the flow. Now, you know how to flow in golf, right? You know, you can feel, you can tell by the wind, you can tell by the turf, you can tell by the ball, the way it's set up. But you weren't born being able to do that. I guarantee you spent 10,000 hours on that golf course to become the best you are. That's what makes you a world-class golfer. So if you want to be world-class at anything, take the time, invest the time. Know that you don't know everything. You have to learn. Okay? Number 4, obtaining the know-how always hints towards learning. And you can think of it like we've been talking already, this instrument. Now, I'm taking instruments because I'm a musician. I love playing music, and believe me, it took every bit of 10,000 hours to get to do what I do as far as music or the martial arts. And when I was younger, I spent every opportunity doing those 2 things. Playing my guitar, learning how to write songs, learning how to sing, all of those things, and then practicing martial arts. Those were the things that I did. I didn't do much outside of those realms because that's what I'm passionate about, been passionate about my whole life. So I've spent that time in those things that I wanted to do, much like Kevin with his golf. Do you have anything you're that passionate about? And if you don't, by the way, it's okay. Not everybody knows exactly what they're meant to do. In fact, Sadhguru says this, which I find it interesting. He goes, when your belly is not full, when you're hungry, you have got one problem. You're starving. Your survival is in question. But when your belly is full, and your head is covered, and your bed is made, you've got hundreds of problems. Isn't it true, though? When your belly is hungry, one problem: survival. When you've got it all, when you've got all your basic survival needs met, hundreds of problems. Put that into perspective for a minute. So if you don't even have a direction, you're like, I don't play instruments, golf isn't my thing, I don't want to punch anybody, I'm not a martial artist, I don't know what I want to do. That's okay, because why so serious? Don't worry so much. It will come to you. Your passion will come to you. You will find something on your journey that excites you. And it may be something you're not even sure. You haven't even discovered yet. It might be something you haven't discovered yet. I had a friend that all he wanted to do was be a football player, but when he got when he had the opportunity to audition for the NFL, it turned out that he wasn't quite there. He physically wasn't there. He wasn't the right size. He wasn't fast enough. He wasn't there. And he thought that that was his passion in life, but it wasn't. It was part of his journey, yes. And he put 10,000 hours to it, indeed. But when he got himself a job working at a program for youth, one day he was sitting there and he was doing his job and he was reading this book the book is called A Child Named It. He read this book and it changed his whole life. Instantly he knew what he needed to do, what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people like that. That one book changed everything for him. He knew it right away. So, if you don't know right now, don't worry so much. It will come to you. Life is, in fact, a journey. A journey. An old Chinese proverb goes something like this: a journey of 10,000 steps starts with the first step. So you may be You may already know, like I did when I was younger. I want to play guitar. I want to write songs. I want to be a martial artist. These are the things I want to do. And I followed it my whole entire life. You may be one of those guys like me. Or you may be the guy that goes, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Why am I even here? I don't even know. That's okay. Don't worry. It will come to you. Something will hit you. And you will just know when you find it. I promise. I promise. So don't get stressed about it. What I would recommend, though, is take the opportunity to learn as much as you can. Because if that guy, my friend, didn't take the opportunity to just read this book, who, by the way, he was much more into sports. He normally would read Sports Illustrated, and he just decided one day, they had a big bookshelf like they're up in here like this, and he decided one day, you know what, I'm going to start at this side and I'm going to read every single book in here. He decided to do that. I don't know what made him decide to do it. He just decided, and he happened to pick that book up. Now he runs a huge youth program and has helped hundreds of lives throughout the years. He's been doing it for over a decade now. From wanting to be a football player, football star, to running a youth program that is making a tremendous difference in the world. Wow! If you had asked him when he was 15, 16, 17, 18, if he would be doing that, there was no way that he was going to do that. No way he was going to be a football star, right? So, take the opportunity to learn. You never know what's going to hit you. Something might strike out and you're like, wow, this is phenomenal. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. Right? Okay. Number 5. If you find something that you really love, well then model the person who has already done what you want to do. Now you might say, again, you might go back to, well, I'm not sure who I want to be. That's okay. You can model someone who you think is outstanding. And by the way, it doesn't have to be, someone close and personal in your life. When I was young, I didn't have a father figure. There was no, other than my martial arts teachers and the music stars that I looked up to. Now, the music stars weren't always the most healthiest people to look up to, okay? Admittedly, but I did. I really looked up to this guy named Axl Rose. Do you know who Axl Rose is? He's the singer of Guns N' Roses. I loved Axl Rose. He had a huge range. I mean, he could hit the super lows, he could hit the super highs. And when you first listen to Guns N' Roses, if you never heard him before, you're like, do they have multiple singers, or do they have different singers? Because he has these totally different voices that he can use. And I loved it. I loved his kind of bad boy style and his tattoos and all that. As you can see now that I'm all tattooed up, that was really an influence from Axl Rose. And so when I saw him singing and doing it, I wanted to do exactly that. I started working my voice, and I tried to emulate what he was doing, his moves and his look and his everything. I tried to emulate what he was doing. When I got into bands, I did my first concert at 13. Right before I went on, I threw up everywhere. I was so nervous. I was so terrified and scared. I threw up everywhere. And I started performing. But before I discovered Axl Rose, I had discovered Jim Morrison from The Doors. And I had some pants that were black, and I had a white shirt. I kind of emulated Jim Morrison, his style a little bit. And as it progressed through, and I sort of jumped from Jim Morrison to Axl Rose, and grew in my musical ability by modeling, not his behavior, not his negative behavior, but his positive stuff that helped him get to where he wanted to be. One thing that Axl Rose did that other people I may think is crazy, but I thought was inspiring, is he didn't want to be limited by his small town of Lafayette, Indiana. So he knew in order to do what he really wanted to do, he had to pick up his toys and go to a place where they're doing what he wanted to do. So he moved to Los Angeles. He actually hitchhiked all the way to Los Angeles to start a band and do the whole thing, which he did, and they became the most popular band on Sunset Strip, and they got a big record deal. And as you know, they're one of the biggest selling bands in history. So take the opportunity to model someone who is doing what you want, or model someone who you think is outstanding, doing outstanding things. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. And rule number 6, once you find someone to do that and you started modeling, you started building your repertoire, you've learned, you've taken the 10,000 hours, you've put in the work, you've done the dedication, take that and do it your own way. Find your own voice. So whether it be being a basketball player, being a golfer, being a baseball player, being a martial artist, or being a musician, it's all the same. So when I emulated Axl Rose, I couldn't sound like Axl Rose because I'm not Axl Rose. I could take his inspiration, I could take that motivation that he gave me, but I still ultimately had to find my own voice, my own unique way of expressing what I wanted to do. So that could be the photography, that could be art, that could be anything in your life, flying helicopters, doing any of that. It is your own unique voice in what you want to do, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So once you put in the 10,000 hours, once you put in the hard work, once you've done the dedication, once you find somebody to really model yourself after, then find your own voice. Become unique. More specifically, become uniquely you. Uniquely you. Doesn't that make sense? So think about it for a second. What is it that you want to do? What can you picture yourself? Let's say 5 years down the road. Oscar, what can you picture yourself doing 5 years down the road?
HVAC business.
HVAC business. Okay, let's take your dad, for example. He has an HVAC business. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he's put 10,000 hours in that for sure, right?
Yeah, it's been like a decade.
Oh yeah, man. He was working it. He's like a genius at it probably. He could probably walk in this building and go, well, we need to run this there, and that's not connected. He's probably just look at something. He knows what's wrong with the system. He can probably just hear the engines or the motors running in an HVAC system and know what's going on with it. You know, I have a friend like that. His name is Casey. He when he came over for the first time, I knew he was a car mechanic. When he came over, he goes, "Turn on your engine." I turn it and he goes, "Yeah, this is wrong." He tells me all the things wrong with it. I was like, "Well, you haven't even looked at it." He goes, "Well, I know. I can just hear it." Are you kidding me, right? But as I got thinking about it, it's like, oh, that's true because I can hear the chords in songs. Or when I see techniques or an MMA fight or something like that, I know what techniques they're doing. I understand. So same thing, HVAC. He probably turns it on and goes, "Oh, well, you probably need to change your filter or whatever." Yeah. Right? So put it in the time. So your dad is a good person to emulate, right? That's what you want to do. He's successful. He's successful at what he's doing. He's a nice guy, great guy. He's a great person for you to emulate and learn from. But ultimately, in the end, you're going to have your own style of doing HVAC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to have your own specialty. Something about it, if that's what you really want to do, something about it's going to stick out to you that's going to become uniquely your signature. Your signature. Your signature style of doing it, right? So you gotta find your own voice. You gotta find your own style because after all, you're not your dad and your dad's not you. So you can't do exactly what he does. You have to do it exactly your way, but you can learn his way first. Like Red Hawk always said, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Well, just because you don't reinvent the wheel doesn't mean you can't put your own rims on it. Right? Just because you don't reinvent the wheel doesn't mean you can't choose a different wheel. Yeah? So, being able to have your own style, once you've put in the hours, once you've put in the time, once you've emulated someone, once you realize it's not the dream that's the problem, it's the know-how. And it's the dedication and the discipline and the doing and the practice and doing what those people who been successful at what you want to do have done time and time again, right? It's finding that actual rose. What did they do to become successful? Then doing exactly that, the best you can. And then finding your own voice. Once you've mastered it, find your own voice. Yeah? Okay. Rule number 7. Fail. And then fail some more. And then fail again. As a matter of fact, fail as often as possible. Absolutely necessary to fail. In fact, I don't think you should look at failure as a bad thing at all. It's a very good thing. Because every time you fail, you learn. Every time you fail, you're one step closer to finding your own voice. Every time you fail, you're that much closer to succeeding. It takes failure in order to breed success. Without question. It's like playing the guitar. See, you can learn how to play the chords of the guitar and things like that, but something always happens to every guitar occasionally, and some more than others. They become out of tune. You have to tune the strings. That's what the knobs on the top are for. It's for tuning your guitar when it goes out of tune. And it sounds really bad, and you will totally bomb the song if you don't have a tuned guitar, right? So, that's like failing, man. You sometimes are out of tune. No problem. You know what the recipe for that is? Tune your guitar. That gives you the opportunity. You go, oh, getting out of tune. I got to tune it back up. You might find that stuff happening in your very life constantly. You might see yourself going like, well, you know, I was doing really good, but now I'm starting to slow down. Things aren't happening. I'm not learning. I'm not getting the success I have. And you should ask yourself this question. Are you feeling complacent? Are you satisfied? Are you comfortable? Well, let's say you tuned your guitar 2 days ago and you've been playing the song and you've been rocking it out, man. You've been rocking it out. And all of a sudden it just starts sounding bad. It's not sounding good anymore. You can't figure out. I don't understand what's wrong. It used to sound good. Must be a broken guitar. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I just suck. And no matter how, every time I pick up the guitar, it sounds like crap. And it just sounds bad. I can't figure it out. And then all of a sudden a dude comes over. He's like, bro, have you tried tuning it? You're like, what do you mean? It was tuned just 2 days ago. Couldn't be that problem. The guy's like, bro, I've been playing a guitar for a long time. I'm telling you, your guitar's out of tune. So take the opportunity to fail and tune your guitar. You need to tune. And occasionally, every single one of us, no matter if we put in 10,000 hours, or no matter if we played a stadium full of people, or whatever, I'm just relating it to music, as it'll be easy to relate to. Whether or not you played the stadiums, or you played the small clubs, or you played weddings, or whatever you're playing, everybody's going to have the same problem. Eventually, you're going to have to tune your guitar. You're going to have to tune your guitar. Does that make sense? Right? So it doesn't matter if it's golf or whatever. Sometimes we're going to fail, and never look at it as a bad thing. Even if you hit absolute rock bottom, you go all the way down, you fail so bad, everything's crashed down below. At least when you hit rock bottom, you know what you got? Something to push off of. Something to push off of, man. You're not done. It's not over. It's just another opportunity to push off and go back up. So you can only go up so far before you're in an area that you have to come back down. That's okay. That's the ebb and flow of life. That's the roller coaster of life. Sometimes it'll take you upside down and put you in some loopy-loops. You know, like that. Someday it's a slow climb like that. You get all the way up to the top and then just real quick drop down. That's the fun of the whole thing. That's the fun of it. That's the failure. Failure's good, man. They give you scars. You know, it's like if you were in a fight and you lose the fight, you had a big old scar down your face. And you could go, oh, I'm terrible. Now I'm terrible. I can't ever fight again. And now I'm ugly. You can look at it that way. I'm going to give up my career. I just took, 22 knees to the face. I'm going to stop. Or you could go, okay, I know not to duck down like that again. And you can go, you know what? Chicks dig scars, man. And they do, by the way. Somebody's going to watch this and like, that guy is so sexist. So misogynistic. It depends on how you look at things as well, right? So you can see failure as the most devastating thing in your life, or you can see it as an opportunity. And I'm telling you, I would prefer you to hear my voice, and here's what my voice is going to say to you. Fail! And fail again. And fail again and again and again and again and again. It's really good to fail. The only time it's true failure is when you don't get back up. So there's really no true failure. It's just what we say in JuJutsu. It's you don't lose, you learn. So that's why you have to be an empty cup. So you can fail and then get back up and try the same thing again. You keep failing. You keep hitting the rock ceiling or rock wall, whatever like that, instead of going down the other way and learning from your experiences. So when you fail, you must empty your cup, be willing to learn, and try a different way. Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, he failed countless times. In fact, he took a company and made millions of dollars and then lost it all. And then he took that lost it all company and he made millions of dollars and then he lost it all. Then he took it and made millions of dollars, kept it all, and then became a celebrity, went even further, and like, I hit myself a glass ceiling, what else can I do? I got an idea, I'll run for president. Ran for president, and then some say he failed on the second term. He lost his next election. Who knows what he's going to do next? But I guarantee you a guy like that, and this is not a political statement, okay, so whatever you like Donald Trump, I don't really care. But that guy like that is going to hit the bottom and he's going to push off, start again, go on to the next thing, do whatever it is he wants to do. He's not going to go, oh, my life is ruined, blah, 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 blah. No, he's going to get back up, man. He's going to learn. He's going to grow. He's going to get better. That's the kind of person that you need to be. One who embraces failure. You don't look for failure, but when it happens, know that sometimes you're on that slow roller coaster going up, and sometimes you're on the fast express train right down to the shit lane. Oh, I just made that up. Sometimes you're there. It's okay. It's okay. By the way, it's also okay to succeed. Have you ever met the people who are like, oh, I hate rich people. I hate successful people. I hate all of those people. They are so entitled. They are so egotistical. They are so cocky. They are so. What they're really saying is, I am not, so I'm a little jealous. Because, the fact is that you have 24 hours in your day and are capable of doing anything anybody else has ever done with the same motivation, the same drive, the same discipline, the same action. You're capable. But what a person who is not motivated, doesn't have the drive, doesn't have this, that, and the other will say is, I don't like that person. How dare they be successful and I'm not? Whose fault is it? Theirs. It's not the successful person. The successful person is working their butt off to get where they are. The person who is not successful and chooses to sit around and eat bags of potato chips, drink beer, and do nothing all night long, that person is there for a reason. And this successful person is there for a reason. Right? Can't begrudge someone's success. Will they fail? They probably failed lots of times. Lots of times. I mean, let's take the Titanic, for example. They made what they claimed to be the unsinkable ship. And it sank. Lots of people died. They made a movie about it. But did they stop building ships? I mean, if they did, that would have been a crying shame. The Titanic sank. I'm so embarrassed. I made the unsinkable ship. And it sank. No, they don't stop making ships. No, they get better and better and better, and they learned and learned and learned. Probably never made that statement again, the unsinkable ship, because that's a little ridiculous, you know. But they learn. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to succeed. And when you succeed, it's okay to rock out, man. When you put in the 10,000 hours, you put in the work, it's okay to enjoy it. That's what I mean when I say rock out. When I'm up there on stage and I'm performing, I'm rocking out, man. I'm enjoying the hard work that I put in. I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. I'm enjoying the fruit. It's okay to enjoy the fruit once you plant the tree. It's okay to enjoy the fruit once the seed is grown. You can't enjoy the fruit before then. You can't eat pretend imaginary fruit. You have to grow it. You have to put the work in. You can't be Eddie Van Halen without putting in the work that Eddie Van Halen did. Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang Van Halen, cool name, just recently, a few years ago, came out with his own album and emulating his dad, of course, but he played every instrument on the thing. He has his own voice. In fact, he wouldn't play Eddie Van Halen's songs or Van Halen's songs because he wanted to do his own thing. But he modeled his dad, of course. His dad was one of the greatest guitar players of all time. He modeled his dad, but he had his own style. He has his own style, his own voice, his own way of doing things, and he's very successful at it. But he followed his dad and what he did to become successful. He's enjoying the fruits of those labors now. Now he's well known. People know who Wolfgang Van Halen is. He's no longer just Eddie Van Halen's son. He has his own voice. So it's okay to rock out. Just remember, occasionally you're going to have to tune. You're going to have to tune from time to time. Yeah? Makes sense, right? And like I was just saying, number 9, enjoy the fruit, but always water the root. Enjoy the fruit, but always water the root. Because if you don't water your plot, your root will wither and your fruit will rot. Hot dog. That's true. You can't grow the fruit before you plant the field. You can't grow the root unless you're putting in the work like they garden out there. How many hours do you see those people out there sowing the field, pulling up the weeds? That'd be another good analogy, right? Pulling up the weeds, and maybe we'll cover that another time. You guys just went to a concert. Who was the person you saw?
Dustin Lynch.
Dustin Lynch. Never heard of him, but I'm sure it was fantastic. Dustin Lynch, before he went on stage, let me tell you what happened. I don't even know who this guy is or what he plays or whatever. It sounds like a country guy to me. Yes? Okay. Yeah. Here's what had to happen for Dustin Lynch. I don't know his history, I don't know nothing about the guy. He probably saw someone in that field and was like, wow, it was his Axl Rose, right? Oh man, if I could only be that. And then he started practicing. He probably dressed like whoever that guy is, wherever he saw. We have to look him up and see if this is true. This is me speculating. Dustin Lynch, if you're watching this, I don't know anything about you. I'm sorry. I hope I'm telling this accurately. He saw this person and knew the spark hit. It's what I wanted to do. And he either went on an American Idol show or a voice show. That's what most guys do these days. Or he went on the road. He got a band, wrote songs, went on the road and toured and all kinds of stuff. Either way, it took a lot of hard work. 10,000 hours minimum. Not only did he have to work, but he had to get a band or a producer or somebody to help with the music, someone to put it together, someone to put it out there. So once he's out there, I assume he's on the radio. So once he had the songs put together, which took thousands of hours, once he had that done, he had to go record it. And it takes hours and hours and hours just to do one song. All the instruments have to be tuned, including the drums. The room from the studio has to be tuned, because you can't have the sound waves bouncing around and hitting different frequencies you don't want in the studio. That room had to be tuned. And then the engineer room, where they do all the mixing and stuff, that room has to be tuned. And the gear had to be just right. And he has to pay for all this, or have a company pay for all this. That took a lot of money, and money takes a lot of time to be successful to have that money. So here's lots of successful people now working together, working consistently with each other, diligently with each other, disciplined with each other to put together this album or song or whatever it is he has, to record it. And then, you know what happens then? Now they have to hire a radio person, a PR person, someone, a media person to put it out there, to get them on the radio. You know what that takes? Money. It takes a lot of money to do that. Companies invest big bucks to do that. You know what it took to that company to get a lot of money? Hard work. Lots of hard work. Lots of people underneath there, rich people. But they weren't born rich, most likely. They probably had to put in hard work to become rich so they could invest in this company that is rich, then invest in this other guy to make that project work so they can get more rich. So this guy, Dustin Lynch, can get his music out. So all of this takes a lot of hard work, dedication, discipline, focus, determination, staying on point. And then the radio had to play it. And then from the radio, you guys actually had to like it. So that means the song has to be good. It has to be good. And if it's not good, they have to pay the radio company, the radio stations, lots of money to play it over and over and over again. So even if it sucks, you're like, well, this song's kind of growing on me.
And then we like it, and then we go see them.
Right, exactly. So it's strategy, right? So the successful people working in a perfect harmony to get this Dustin Lynch. Now, before he even got booked for your concert that you went to, he had to have something that's called a booking agent. He has to have a booking agent. Well, the booking agent took a lot of hard time to become a booking agent. He had to start all the way at the bottom. He had to know people. He had to intermingle. He had to work it. Came all the way up till now he can book Dustin Lynch. A lot of hard work to become a booking agent. I've done that too. That is a lot of hard work. So now he's juggling several artists, and here comes the call for Dustin Lynch at this event that you guys went to. All right, cool. How much are we going to do? Now the manager of Dustin Lynch gets involved. He's like, wait a minute. Dustin Lynch needs at least $30,000 to play, let's just say, because, hey, we got to pay for the sound company. We've got to pay for the engineers. We've got to pay for the bus, the gas, all of these things. Oh, the roadies, the instruments have to have strings and sticks and drum heads, and they have to have all these things. It's going to take a lot of money. And in order to get a lot of money, you've got to be successful. And in order to be successful, you had to have all this hard work down here and start way up here and build it up. All before this concert ever happened. Now, once the concert happened, or when it's booked, now it's ready. You got to have the stadium. So whoever put it on had to book that. And then they had to figure out, well, where's Dustin Lynch going to perform? Well, we got to get a stage. Well, how are we going to get a stage? Well, it doesn't magically happen It doesn't like, poof, there's the stage. There you go. There you go, Dustin Lynch. There it is. No, it took a team of people to build the stage. And believe me, that's difficult because it has to be reinforced in order to support the weight of all the musicians and the instruments and the sound gear. And they probably had TV screens so you could see them better and all that stuff. That stage alone was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And the man hours it took to put it up, it probably took all day. One day, 8, 10, 12, 16 hours to put that one stage up. Now that doesn't include the lights. Well, that's a whole different department. Now you got to have a light crew. The lights had to go up, and it probably took all day, maybe 1 or 2 days, to set the lights just up. Now you can't just put the lights up. They had to be directed specifically in the right direction to make the great show for you guys. All right, so that light crew cost thousands of dollars, which took successful people in order to do that. And to become successful, you got to do all this hard work, start here and build up to be successful so you can do these things. Now Dustin Lynch arrives. He gets that back in the backstage. He's got to warm his voice up. I mean, you can't go out there cold. You got to warm your voice up because if you're on tour and you're not warming your voice up, your voice will die. So it's actually a lot of hard work to be a singer because it's physical, very physical. Your voice can go out at any time. You can't control it unless you're really working it. It's like an athlete. You got to work out. Same thing with a singer. They have to work out, have their voice in the tip-top shape. Their breathing has to be in tip-top shape because he's probably moving back and forth on stage and all like that. Okay, so that had to be done. The sound system had to be set up. The sound system can take days to set up, or depending on the crew. That takes a whole entire crew to set up the sound system. It takes a whole entire crew to run the main board. Or in other words, what you're hearing is the main sound system. But it's an entirely different crew for the monitor system that's on the side of the stage, adjusting for the musicians to hear. How many people have taken already? Okay. Now Dustin Lynch hits the stage, but he had to have good musicians, and you know he's got to pay them top dollar because they probably come from Nashville. They've traveled a long way just to be in there, and he can't just have anybody get on stage. They have to be top notch. It has to sound like the song that you heard on the radio, or you're not going to be happy.
And then security.
And then security. Oh, forget about security. That's a nightmare. You get talk about security. Dozens of guys getting paid good money to be there. You know what all of this took to happen? Some people became successful in order to make that experience for you successful, enjoyable. It was nice, though, right? You also got to think about the vendors that were there. Certainly you got hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff. The drinks and all that. Man, look how much work that took to put on just a little concert.
The morning show, Marty and Amy, or whatever their name, right?
Yep, the morning show, right? They were there. Had to get the radio involved. That cost money, which took a successful person to invest, which, you know how much hard work it is to become successful. But that doesn't mean that once you become successful, you can't rock on, man, because you can get a concert going if you wanted to. But it takes hard work. There's nothing in your life that's going to go, oh, I know what, I'm going to do a concert. And then you do no planning, and then it's like chaos. Life doesn't work like that, man. That's how you fail. And so you wonder, well, Raven, why are you always harping on everything? It's got to be on a schedule. It's got to be disciplined. It's got to be focused. It's got to be driven. You got to do it this way because this is what we agreed. This is what we agreed, and this is the successful way. Why do I do that? Because I'm a jerk? No, because it's the formula to success. How do I know? I'm successful. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I am. Right? Okay. So it takes that. Do you think if they were unorganized and chaotic going through there, it would never have been a successful concert? Never. So every single thing in your life is like that. And in order to get to that successful point, you've got to put in the hours. You've got to put in the hours of working on what you want to do. And I'll go back to the beginning and I'll say, no, it's okay if you don't know what it is you want to do. Don't worry. Keep learning. Keep an empty cup. Be willing to learn because you never know when the book is going to hit you and go, that's it. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be. And by the way, you can change too. You can change courses like my friend. Like, you know what? I'm not meant to be a football player. I'm meant to do this. And that's okay. But when you find it, you'll know. And when you know, you're going to go after it. And when you go after it, become obsessed with it. And it's all right to be obsessed with it as long as it's positive. It's all right. And, you know, I've heard people say, well, my whole thing is, man, I'm going to be a drug dealer and make lots of money. I've never met one successful drug dealer ever. Ever. Yeah, but he's driving a fancy car. That doesn't mean you're successful. Doesn't mean you're successful. Curtis Lewall, the founder of the Guardian Angels, once set up in front of a drug dealer's house in Florida, where he had a big mansion out there. He sat out there with a PA system and started yelling out at the neighborhood, "We're taking you out of this neighborhood. We're taking you down." Of course, the drug dealer can't stay in the light. They weren't made for the light. They're made for the darkness. And let me promise you something. The darkness, the moon, is always scared of the sun. When the sun rises, the sun's king. The sun comes up and goes, "Get out of my way, dark. I'm coming through, and you can't stop me, by the way." Even when the sun gets eclipsed by the moon, you still see the sun behind the moon. It's still burning through, and I won't take long before the moon is out of that. The darkness is scared of the light. It flees the light. Be the light. A drug dealer can't be in the light. Of course he can't be in the light. He's dark. The sun will disperse him, and it always does. So that's not an option. You know, being a criminal is not an option, because there's no hard work in criminality. There's no hard work involved in that. There's nothing real there. That's why the mobsters and the gangsters who ran Las Vegas all those years ago aren't running the Las Vegas anymore. It's the truth, right? They don't run the casinos no more. So, invest your time in you. Plow your field. Grab your guitar, whatever it is. Learn to be your best. But never worry about failing. Do it. Do it often. Do it as much as you can. Because you may grow that way. But if you want, you can always check the tuning of your guitar and prevent lots of failing. You know, if I really wanted to, if I was a musician, which I am, sorry, when I'm on stage, I don't go, "I hope this is in tune," before I play. No, I check my tuning, then I go for it. You might could do the same thing with your life. You can go, let me check and make sure I'm on point. Let me make sure I'm on tune. I'm in tune. Let me tune myself up a little bit. I'm getting a little comfortable with this situation. I'm getting a little complacent. I'm getting a little too loosey-goosey. I'm getting a little too chaotic. I'm getting a little too off-kilter. You're probably out of tune, man. Take the time to tune yourself up. Put a discipline on yourself. Find something to tune yourself up. Make sense? Okay, questions, thoughts. Let's go for it. I'm ready.
Can you repeat the fourth one?
Number 4 is obtaining the know-how always hints towards learning. Like being someone learning how to play an instrument. I'll go through all of them real quick. Number 1, if you had all the answers in your own head, you would have already found out the truth. Number 2, be willing to admit you don't have all the answers and willing to learn from others. Be an empty cup. Number 3, it's not a man's dreams that fail him. It is the lack of know-how required to bring the dream into actuality. Number 4, obtaining the know-how hints towards learning. Number 5, model someone who has already done what you want to do. My example was Axl Rose, right? Number 6, do it in your own way. It makes it uniquely you. Find your own voice. Number 7, fail and fail and fail often. But don't forget about tuning up your life. Like an instrument, we need to constantly tune. Number 8, rock out, man. Once you're tuned up and you get to the top, you put in your 10,000 hours, my gosh, man, rock out. Live your dreams. It's okay. Life is meant to be joyous. Not all the time, but it's the goal, right? To be happy. Can't always be happy, but you can't always be dark either. Number 9, enjoy the fruit, but always water the root. Because if you don't water your plot, your root will wither and your fruit will rot. All right, other questions? Thoughts? Comments?
Like I said, well, here's my question. For failure, would that technically, like when you feel stuck, would that technically be considered failure? Or is that just more of like a block in the road?
Yeah. So being stuck, like you're not progressing, it's an opportunity to tune yourself up, right? Because you being stuck, it may, if you really and authentically look at yourself and you ask yourself the right questions and you keep it real with yourself, you'll go, why am I stuck? And 9 times out of 10, that stuckness is going to be related to complacency. You're complacent about something or you're comfortable. And when you become comfortable, you can't grow. And when you're not growing, that would be another word for being stuck. So if you feel stuck, get uncomfortable. Become uncomfortable. Put yourself in a place where you have to expand, where you have to grow. You have to go past that glass ceiling. They call it a glass ceiling. You get a glass ceiling, and you go, oh no. Oh no, can't go past that. No, oh wait, there's the ceiling, but it's made of glass, man. You can go right through there and on to the next thing. But you got to be willing to risk it. You got to be willing to do it. Put in the work to make that happen. Good question. Anybody else? Nothing. I must have explained it pretty good. Did you learn something out of this?
Yeah.
What did you get? Tell me something that you got out of this.
Failure is needed to succeed.
Failures need to succeed. Yeah. What'd you get out, Kev?
I'd say it's a never-ending cycle of repetition and harmony. I like the example with the band and the whole thing because there's just so much involved, like it just never ends, and it's just like once that whole production was done, they'd have to go to another city. Then 2 days later, it's not like I'll just that was a lot. I'll just take a week off. It
Doesn't work that way. No.
So that's immediately, and there's so much to get it all in sync, and so I like that example a lot. So
You know what else occurred to me about that is like those successful people took the risk that you guys would come to that concert, that they were willing to take the risk that they might even lose all their money, because what if all of a sudden Dustin Lynch is not popular anymore and nobody comes to his concert? That would be devastating. And now they paid a bunch of people and no one came to the show. So they took that risk. I mean, it was a calculated risk. I mean, most likely the people were going to come, but what if no one came? So what's that risk? They're willing to take the risk.
there's always that.
Holden, what'd you get?
I liked it. It was good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. What did you get out of it?
Kind of still processing a lot. Yeah.
Okay, processing. What did you get out of it?
I got lots of stuff out of it. My favorite thing was probably the constantly master the steps and skills for everything practically, and I relate that to like trust the process.
Yeah.
If you know the process, stick to the process.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Miyamoto Musashi says, master the ways of all professions. And I take that to mean, learn as much as you can. Be knowledgeable. Have a good understanding of the laws of the world and the way of nature. Learn the ways of the merchant. Learn the ways of the, warrior. Learn the ways of the scholar. Learn. Gosh, you got the greatest computer in the world. We might as well store something in it. Okay, well, that's all I got for you today. Think about those things. Try to apply them. Put them in. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay. All right.